The Post-it Podcast is brought to you by Dominion Real Estate, SEMA Business Consultants, Instant Balloon Stands, Farmers Insurance by Imelda Gonzalez, and South Texas Pressure Cleaning.
Welcome back to another episode of the Post-it Podcast. I'm Cassandra Romero, and I'm co-hosting with Bri Alvarez. Hi, Bri.
Hi, Cassie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Well, we are so excited to once again have Jonah Goldberg, a Senior Associate Athletic Director of Communication and Championships at UTRGV. Mm-hmm. And we want to take this time to acknowledge that this is our second time having you on our podcast. And we apologize we want to thank you for coming and taking the time out of your day again to come see us and talk to us, even though we had a minor technical issue with the audio on the last one, and you were still so open to come again. So
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we want to thank you so much. And, last time we got to learn a lot about you, and we hope you can share those same stories and maybe a little bit more with our audience so that they can get to hear that too. But like Bri said, we're so grateful to have you on again, and thank you for being so open with us.
Oh, my pleasure. You don't get to where I am in life without making a few mistakes along the way. In fact, I've probably made mistakes recently. When I was an undergraduate student at Boston University, I went in to interview our women's lacrosse coach for a player profile. Mm-hmm. I recorded the whole thing into my laptop. And then as soon as I was done, I looked down and I hit what I thought was the stop button. I actually was hitting the record button. And I said, oh. And the coach looked at me and said, "You didn't record it, did you?" And I said, "No." So she said, "Let's go. Let's do it again." So I've been there. I get it. And that is part of growing up. That's part of this. This is why you do this.
Definitely.
If you never made a mistake, I wouldn't believe that you'd actually done it.
Okay. So right now you just mentioned that you went to Boston University. And so what led you down here to the RGV then if you did come from Boston University?
Mm-hmm.
An airplane.
Well.
So I initially came down in 2007, literally the day after my last class. Uh-huh. My last class, it was ice skating and fencing.
That is so exciting. That's so cool.
So on May 3rd, 2007, I was ice skating. On May 4th, 2007, I was landing in Harlingen. Uh-huh. So in
2 days from
90-degree heat. Yeah. So I'm about to hit my 17-year anniversary. And I drove to Harlingen Field, which still had a ball team at the time, and I was working for the Rio Grande Valley White Wings minor league baseball team, and that's what originally brought me down here, was to broadcast minor league baseball. I knew I wanted to do that out of college. I applied all across the country, and there were not a lot of interviews, as there probably shouldn't be for somebody with no experience applying for a job that 200 other people applied for in every single case. So you don't even know if your stuff gets seen. And then I got this very late. It was March 27th. I remember very specifically the day that I got the job offer, and I just said yes. Didn't care where it was, looked it up after I said yes, and it was like, let's go. I'm so excited to do this. And I spent 5 years with the Wings.
Nice. And so you also, like Bri mentioned, and you mentioned you went to Boston University. So tell us what you majored in and why you decided to major in that.
So I was a broadcast journalism major. I actually had a concentration in political science. BU requires all of the journalism majors, regardless of what type of journalism, to have a concentration, so which is like 2 classes short of a minor. Basically 5 classes in something else. With the idea being that if you're going to go into journalism, you should be able to be knowledgeable of whatever it is you're going to be covering. Yeah. So I thought, if the sports thing doesn't work out, maybe I'll cover politics as a reporter or something. And so I took 5 classes in political science to give me that kind of background. And luckily, the sports thing worked out, and I've been able to avoid that.
Okay, so you also, you're the Director of Communications and Championships at UTRGV. So what does your title entail? Can you walk us through day-to-day of what you do?
Yeah. There is no day-to-day. There are no 2 days that are ever the same. I think on the basic level, it's media relations, and you're going to get different requests from different media entities on different days who, maybe It's they want to do a story about our baseball team, so I'm going to head out to baseball practice with them. I'm going to help facilitate interviews and make sure they can talk to student athletes coach. And that can be for any team that is under my purview. And then I work with our website and social media channels. On game days, I broadcast. So I do the play-by-play for right now for volleyball, soccer, basketball, baseball, men's and women's on both. I did the WAC women's swimming or men's and women's swimming and diving championships when we hosted that in 2023. Wow. I did track and field when we hosted the WAC Outdoor Track and Field Championships in 2021. So, tried to diversify it, get in a lot there. And then the championships portion, whenever we bid on or host a conference championship level event, I am in charge of that. I have to make sure that we acquire it, and then I have to make sure it goes well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's definitely a lot, like every sport that you kind of have to be there for, right? So tell us, you mentioned the WAC, right? Recently, UTRGV announced that they're changing from the WAC to the Southland Conference. So tell us what that change entails.
So 16 of our 18 sports will be moving over to the Southland Conference, and that's because the Southland doesn't sponsor men's soccer or women's swimming and diving. Their other member schools just, for the most part, don't have it. So we will remain an affiliate of the Western Athletic Conference in those two sports, which means we still have the opportunity to host WAC championships in swimming and diving at the City of Farn Auditorium, which is really exciting.
That's an amazing facility too. So.
It is. We're very fortunate to be able to have that within the conference. I don't think any of the other schools can really hold the candle to what we have. So my hope is we host it in perpetuity.
Yes.
But the move to the Southland it's big for us. That's a conference that is really deep-seated in Texas. It's been around since the 60s, and it's always been heavy in Texas and then Louisiana. So like right now, we'll be member number 11, and of the 10 that we're in this year, 5 in Texas, 5 in Louisiana.
Okay.
Texas A&M Corpus Christi, our closest Division I opponent with whom we compete in a South Texas Showdown every year, they are part of the Southland Conference. So that our closest opponent will now be a conference opponent, which is good. Incarnate Word in San Antonio, Houston Christian in Houston, Texas A&M Commerce a little further north. These are schools that are all driving distance that we can now more easily play. And same like McNeese State, which is in Lake Charles, Louisiana, right across from Houston. That's also close, and a few other Louisiana schools. Everything's drivable.
That's good.
And what that will do is it will cut down on our missed class days for our student athletes by about 50%.
Wow.
And it will also just, honestly, it's going to help them recover. It's going to help them be healthier. Like right now, a few weeks ago, our baseball team went to Seattle. They played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So they left Thursday. They were probably heading to the airport 4 in the morning. They traveled all day. Then you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, you played at noon on Sunday, except noon Pacific time is 2 p.m. here. By the time that game ends, and by the time you can get to an airport, there is no flight back to the Valley. So now you can't fly out till Monday. And by the time you get back Monday, because you're flying all day, it's 10 p.m. midnight.
You're tired, yeah.
And then you don't want to go to class the next day because you're so exhausted.
But you got it.
You have to,
So you missed your Monday classes.
Yeah.
And now you've got to get to Tuesday class exhausted. And by the way, you might have a game on Tuesday.
Wow.
And then you're going to head to your Wednesday class. And now that weekend, I think we were home after that. So at least Thursday, you're not traveling again. But that can happen. Like even here in May, we actually have back-to-back road weekends where our team was at Texas Tech Tuesday, and they're at Abilene Christian over the weekend. So that's a short Lubbock to Abilene. That's not terrible. But then, so you're going to come back. You're going to do finals on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday after you've been out all week.
Wow.
Yeah, that's...
And then Thursday, you're going to fly to California. And you're going to play California Baptist. Now, at least now finals are over, so you're not worried about class. But then you're going to play there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, you're going to fly to Corpus Christi. We're going to play there on Tuesday. And then you're going to bus right back, get back late, try to recover a little on Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're going to play a home series.
That's exhausting, and not just as an athlete, but as a student, right? Like, that's exhausting.
And I love the WAC. I love the people in the WAC. I've made a lot of long-lasting friendships within the Western Athletic Conference, both in the conference staff and the other institutions. And the name WAC, I mean, it's been around. It's one of the oldest conferences in the country. It has a lot of great history. It means a lot to me. But this is a great move for our student
Yes.
athletes. This is going to help them immeasurably. So just on helping with the travel alone, because now you could just bus up, bus down. You know, you're missing a lot less time. You're on the road a lot less. It's just it's better all around.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is obviously an exciting and new change for the student athletes at UTRGV. And you yourself mentioned also that you were a play-by-play announcer, or that you still kind of do that in your
Still
spare
do.
time.
Dabble in that, yeah.
So how did you get into play-by-play announcing?
So you can go back to 2000. And I was a Yankees fan growing up, still am, growing up on Long Island. And I was casual. I'd watch when there was when I could watch on TV, which were only a handful of games a year. It was mostly on pay TV. And I was like, oh, this is fun. This is nice. I like baseball. I like playing catch with my dad. Well, in 2000, the Yankees played the Mets. And being in New York,
Yeah.
that's
That's
the
huge,
end all
yeah.
be all. Walking around high school, everybody either had Yankees or Mets. Teachers, staff, students, everybody. And then random one kid with a Red Sox.
He's loyal.
Yeah, good for him.
At least, yeah.
So that I got really swept up in it. Yankees won, of course. And going into 2001, I was like, you know what? I want to up my fandom. I don't want to miss another game. So watching wasn't an option. Madison Square Garden Network, which they were on at the time, was a premium channel. And you may not know this, but there was a time where your basic cable was 29 channels. And it wasn't even 29 because there was no Channel 1. Channel 3 only sometimes worked. And Channel 14 was like the TV Guide channel. So really, you didn't have much. And so watching every game, not an option. But I had a clock radio, and I could listen to the games on the radio. So I'd come home, have dinner, do my homework, and then usually the game started at 7 o'clock. So I'd head up to my room, I'd turn on the radio, and I'd just lay in my bed and listen. And I'd watch on the back of my eyelids. And about a month into the season, I started thinking, my goodness, these guys are getting paid to get excited about watching baseball. How do I do that? And at that point, every decision I made was all in the goal of figuring out how to do that. I created a website in high school from which I could broadcast baseball and softball. It started on actually the school website, which my brother had built.
That's crazy.
And yeah, he built the first one in our district when he was in middle school.
Oh, wow.
A little bit of a savant. And I went to a baseball game toward the end of my junior year with a tape recorder. And I just sat there and I broadcast it. And then I got home and went over to our big bulky computer, which had a microphone by then, and I played it back, recorded it into the computer, and then we could upload it to the school website. And that was cool. But then senior year, I wanted more, and I wanted easier access. So my brother was teaching me HTML and how to do it, and he helped me build that first website. And I used that to broadcast my senior year more softball and baseball games, and I actually would go over with. By that, my dad got a laptop for work, and he'd let me bring it. And we had recording software in it, so I didn't have to double record.
Yeah.
And I'd sit and record, and we'd get home, and I'd upload it to the website, and it would be there. And that was kind of what started it all. And I looked at schools that specifically had broadcast journalism, had to be a good broadcast program, had to have a student radio station that students could be heavily involved in. Yeah, they had to have all the right things. I had very specific wants when I was looking at schools. And I ended up at Boston University, which had a student-run radio station that was on 24/7 on an AM and an FM. And they also had an online stream, which was nice. That was still a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
And a robust sports department. I was able to be a part of 248 game broadcasts in 4 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, we had a huge sports department, like 40 people within it. And who knew that I would be able to get such opportunity? And I didn't get it. I earned it.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
my freshman year, I remember at the end of the first semester, we have all these people sitting in a room, and the seniors are getting on people. And they're like, you guys need to be doing more. You're not doing enough. is every one of you should be averaging at least 10 broadcasts per semester. And this is an amazing opportunity. WTBU is what you make it to be. So whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. I sat there like, wow, he's right. I wonder how many games I've done. This is why I know the number. So I went back and I looked, I was like, I did 10. I was like, okay, so I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I thought, I don't want to be average. So I did 50 spring semester.
That's wow, 10 to 50.
And then I just flew right at it, nonstop. That was my main focus for my remaining 7 semesters.
Wow. And now you're here.
Now
you're here.
And now I'm about to hit my 1900th career broadcast.
Whoa. So like you've counted, you've kept like track of it. Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the 1880s right now. So early next year, I should get to 1900. And sometime during the 2025-26 academic year, I'll hit 2000.
Nice.
Awesome. That's nice. Well, you've mentioned all that hard work that you had to put in, right? You've earned your place here. Tell us about networking, the importance of networking, and how also knowing individuals and building that relationship with an individual helps you also in case you do need assistance at some point.
Networking is everything.
Yeah.
So you're interviewing all these cool people on this podcast. Do either of you have a LinkedIn page?
Yes, I started.
Actually, no, I don't.
Okay.
But I should start one.
So you're winning. So you should all have LinkedIn. That's first of all. That's the best networking social media there is. And every time you meet somebody, you connect with them. And you just stay connected. And you can kind of follow each other's updates that way. Like if you were to connect with me, I will see your updates on my feed. You will see mine. And then, occasionally you comment or, you occasionally just send a message. It could be once a year. Just be like, hey, just wanted to let you know this is what I'm up to these days. How are you doing? And that's it. It doesn't have to be much. And by doing that, you kind of stay top of mind. And then one day you're like, hey, I see there's an opening at UTRGV, for example. And now suddenly you know somebody, right, who can help you. Or it's at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And for some reason you want to work there with our arch nemesis. That's fine. So you're like, hey, I know they're in your conference. I know you play them a lot. Do you know anybody there that can help me? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you. You did a great job with that podcast. Yeah, let me call so-and-so and I'll talk to them. So much it's important to be good at what you do, but who you know is so critical. A few weeks ago, you all interviewed Alex Del Barrio on this podcast, right?
Yes.
Guess who helped me get the job with the White Wings?
I'm going to take a wild guess and say Alex Del Barrio.
Like, if I hadn't known him, I don't know that I'd be here right now.
Wow.
Because it didn't matter if I was good or not. And certainly coming out of college, I probably wasn't. That's reality. Because I didn't have a lot of experience, and I shouldn't have been good. It's just it takes reps, and he went to BU for part of his undergrad time, so I met him there. And when he came back here and started working with the Edinburgh Roadrunners in 2004, we stayed in contact. Like I sent, they don't do this anymore, but instant messages. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yes.
And we would message each other. It's been replaced by texts, but whatever. We stayed in contact, and he was working still in the league, the same league the White Wings are in. And what happened there was I had actually applied to a different team in the league, Alexandria, Louisiana. The White Wings didn't have a posted opening. And the White Wings had hosted a winter league that year. The guy who did winter league moved to Alexandria. He took their job. And suddenly there was an opening in Harlingen, unposted. Well, I guess they got a hold of Alexandria's applicants, including me, and then Alex knew I was still looking for a job, and we were talking, and he talked to the general manager of the White Wings because he knew him because he was involved in the league. And suddenly, it happened.
Yes.
A contact won't necessarily get you a job. Sometimes they'll just get you the interview, they'll get you the look, but that's as important as anything else.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like many moons ago, I had a friend who said, I'll make sure they talk to you, but once that interview starts, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Don't stub your toe. Or as I had a professor once say, he's like, you can always put me down as a reference. Don't even have to ask. When they call, I will make you walk on water, but then it's your job to do it.
Yes.
So, but the networking part, it's critical. Because when they talk to you, they're already they're like, okay, I need to talk to this person because so-and-so said so. So-and-so highly recommended you. And then you have to actually nail that part on your
definitely.
own. But if you don't know somebody, you may not even get the interview and have the opportunity to show them, hey, you actually should be hiring me. I'm not just so-and-so's friend. I'm also actually really good at what I do.
Yes. So having those networking and all those people, all those connections opens up the door for you, but it's up to you to make sure once you're in that door, you stay in there.
Definitely.
And so you mentioned that Alex Eladio helped you get the job with the White Wings here in Harlingen.
Yeah.
So I want you to elaborate on the importance of minor leagues here in the Valley and what does that mean?
Yeah, at one point we had 8 professional sports teams down here all at once, and it was crazy. We oversaturated the market, I think. We had... So when I came down here, we had the White Wings and then they were known as the Coyotes playing minor league baseball. And then a couple of months later, the Vipers started. They're still around. The
Yes.
Silverados, you ever hear of them?
No.
They were an American Basketball Association team. They played at the McAllen Convention Center for one season, and then they disappeared. And, so we had them. We've had a number of minor league soccer teams that have come through in various leagues. And we had one that played at the baseball stadium in Edinburgh. We had, we had the Toros that, only recently shut down. There was one that played over at Valley View. I think there was or is one in Brownsville. I know we had indoor soccer at one point. We've had multiple iterations of indoor football. The good one, the AF2, the Dorados, and then I know there have been others since. When we had the original, the professional Killer Bees of the Central Hockey League, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They did well. I know they tried junior hockey. It didn't work quite as well after that. So, I think that it was important. I think it showed the hunger in this market to be involved in sports because some of these teams did very well on things like tickets and sponsorships, and it kind of showed that there was that hunger for a sports marketing budget that may not have existed as much before. And I think that hunger kind of helped to whet the appetite for what we're doing now, because ever since we announced football, we've seen this massive increase in interest. And I think people became used to being able to get that exposure or go to these sporting events. And now there's a lot fewer of them, but UTRGV is kind of here to kind of fill that hole and say, hey, we're here. We're playing Division I sports. Come and support. And honestly, they've had in huge numbers. Our baseball team is near 60,000 for attendance for the year. Our previous program record was 45,000 set last year, and before that it was 37.
The growth every single year.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and it's incredible just watching how many people are coming out. We've sold about 4,000 football season tickets already.
Wow.
We're 450 days from kickoff. It's incredible the amount of interest that there is in the Valley right now.
So keep telling us about those numbers, right? The baseball team, the football team that's coming. How do you keep our Valley viewers, I guess you could call them, the people here in the Valley, engaged and make sure that they're coming to the games and being involved in these activities?
I think the cool thing about UTRGV is one of the things that makes us so successful as a university as a whole, not just athletics, is that everybody who works there, or almost everybody who works there, has the same driving force to lift up the Valley.
Yes.
That's what this is about. That's why UTRGV exists, and that's why we work there. At other institutions, and this certainly isn't, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but this is true certainly at some other institutions. You may have some people who, I want to get my papers published, like from an academic standpoint. I want to do this research. Or if you work in athletics, it could be, I want to win a championship and then get another job. That happens all the time. Coach wins conference championship, gone. They move on to the next job, the so-called better job. And then maybe they don't have success, they get fired in 5 years and wonder, why did I leave? But that's a different story. The people who work here, for the most part, are all about lifting up the Valley.
Definitely.
And it's different. And I think that's what makes UTRGV successful. And everything we do is about that. That's football. That's why we're doing football. It is about the Valley. Because what football can do is it brings a lot of eyeballs on the region in a way that we can't otherwise get. Because right now, what eyeballs are on the region? It's about the border. Okay, well, there's a lot more to the Valley than the border. We are a vibrant region.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
how do you get ESPN or just other news out and sports outlets to notice that and see that. You know, I was able to get UTRGV baseball on the front page of USA Today, or USA Today sports section, I should say, a few years ago, which was incredible, but it was a one-off. You know, everybody got it in their hotel the next morning, or anybody else who picks up USA Today wherever else you can get it. But then it was over, right? And then we moved on with our lives. And the only reason I was able to get there is they were doing a series about sports on the border. And I was able to get them to look at UTRGV, and I was able to show them that this place is like everywhere else.
Yes.
And they were stunned. This is not what the Valley was not what they were expecting. And so we changed some hearts and minds, but there's so much work to do. Whereas football, everybody's like football. That's what people care about. So they're going to pay attention now. And every time we have a college football broadcast on ESPN Plus, which would be, you know, especially a home game where we're controlling what the announcers are saying or who the announcers are, it's a 3-4 hour commercial for the Valley.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yes.
And that's exactly what it is. Everything we do is a commercial. And it's great that, you know, there'll be a game. That's important. But we can also plug what makes this region so great. And you'll have a whole new set of viewers each time who may be tuning in for the opposing team. And now we get to tell them about it.
That's so amazing.
Yes.
Especially to see the exponential growth that the sports program at UTRGV has seen since its start. So what has being a Division I school in sports, how has that helped UTRGV?
Well, gosh, we've actually been Division I since the late 60s. I'm not sure a lot of people realize that, but we have been. In fact, our baseball team's been to 13 NCAA regionals, and a College World Series. But admittedly, it's been a while. Baseball hasn't been since 1986. Volleyball was in the NCAA tournament in 2016, as was women's tennis. And other than track and field, sending individuals to the NCAAs on pretty much a yearly basis, you know, we haven't had that success yet. But we're trying. We're trying to get there. And if we do, I mean, that's another example of putting the Valley on display. Because, like, basketball, you get to the basketball NCAA tournament, and these days it's men's or women's. It's not just men's that is drawing in all these eyeballs. And, again, it's a commercial. People learn about you. And I have found that when you work with the opposing broadcasters or the national broadcasters and you tell them about your area, they'll talk about it. Our baseball game at Texas Tech the other day, they were talking about the Valley. They were talking about our rivalry with Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Like, you give them little nuggets and they'll put it out there for you. So just Division I athletics gives us the ability to have a front porch to the university that everybody can see and help us to promote everything else, like the medical school, like tuition advantage, like our low debt and our high social mobility. Like, all these things that make UTRGV great can be promoted because of athletics.
Yes. And you've touched on baseball, right? Tell us how the baseball program has become so successful and how you keep, you know, the big following that you all have.
You know, it's interesting because we were successful for a long time, and then we weren't for a while, and in recent years we have become again. And I think, you know, we've been able to attract a higher level of student athlete. We've been able to keep some of the best Valley players in the Valley.
Yes, a lot of players from our school signed actually to UTRGV for baseball.
I mean, absolutely. Like, I mean, you think back a few years ago, and there was a kid named Trace Barrera, Sharyland kid. He ended up at Texas and big leagues with the Washington Nationals. It would have been great if we could have kept him here, right? And we weren't there. There was a kid, big hitter, who ended up at Texas Tech, maybe a first or third baseman. And anyway, he, again, kid would have been great to be able to keep here. Well, now we are keeping those kids here. And I think that's a big thing. There's a lot of talent in the Valley. And some of them are going to go on to Power 5, whatever. Good for them. But I think some of them are realizing, hey, I should pitch it home. Look at Nico Rodriguez. He went to Vela, and he went to Kansas State straight out of high school. He goes there 2 years, and he's back here, and he's a star. And he was fine there, but he didn't get as many opportunities, and you know, things are just different. Whereas he comes home, and I mean, he gets to be a part of what we're building here. And I think a lot of kids are starting to realize that. And the other thing they're seeing is that they see the crowds. We are top 40 in the NCAA out of over 300 baseball playing Division I schools in attendance. Like, there are plenty of Power Fives that don't stack up to us. We're ahead of Baylor in attendance right now.
Wow.
Impressive.
To put in perspective.
We're ahead of Houston. Like, Houston came down here for a 3-game series last year, and we had 4,000 one night, 3,000